What is up, everybody? Sven Diesel here. We're going to be tying the simplest squirmy. This is just a quick pattern for tying squirmy wormies when you're trying to get out on the lake or river. There's no weight to it. It's pretty simple. All you need is some hook, some thread, and the squirmy worm. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a stealth hook. I recommend a scud or a grub hook for this. This is a size 10. I fish them in 8 to 12, sometimes 14s. We've got a wax thread by Semperfli. This is an 8/0. You're going to want a little heavier thread for this so that you don't cut through the silicone material. We'll go ahead and start our thread here, and we're going to lay down a nice underbody on this shank. So you want to make sure you're doing pretty close to touching wraps. It's not going to be visible, but this will show through the worm material. And I want to go well into the bend, almost to where your wraps are going to fall off. So we're using some of this Squirmito material. They come pretty long, so I generally just take one and cut it in half. And that's pretty much almost the perfect length for 8s and 10s, but for the 14s you got to trim a little bit more. But I don't think you can get 3 out of it. So what we're going to do is I'm basically going to position it so that I've got a little bit longer of a tail, and I'm going to do some 2 pinch wraps. Now as I come down, I'm not pulling on the thread tension. It is very loose wraps right over another, and then I will go ahead and make sure those wraps are together, just giving it a little tug here. My thread's loose, and then I will just do almost a reverse tie here with some thread wraps back towards my tie-in point. And then I'll go ahead and advance my thread up to the eye. Oh, watch out for your point. And then we'll just work our way up to the eye of the hook. I'm laying down a second layer of thread here so that this orange flat thread really shines through. Look, that is secure. So that loose wrap, when we reverse tie it back into it, it's not going to cut it. But all we got to do now is just palmer this up. You want to make sure that first wrap goes all the way around, and then your subsequent wraps, try not to twist it, but you're not pulling super tight. You still want to add a little bit of, it's not segmentation, but a little bit of profile, a little bit of grubbiness, a little bit of, that looks pretty good. Now here's the trick. I do a 45-degree wrap right there and then one in front. I'm pulling straight down on that, and I'll do another 45 and a wrap in front or 2. And then I'll do it one more time, a 45-degree, and then a couple wraps. And as I pull back, I'm doing subsequent wraps just right over, touching wraps, working my way back. And look, the worm goes perfect. It's going to sit right on top of the shank, and then we'll just do a 3-turn whip finish, and we'll go ahead and trim out our thread at this point. So that's it. Like I said, it's super simple. It's weightless. It sits right in the middle. It's going to basically ride backwards. It's going to flow. It's going to be squirmy. You can trim it to the length that you want, but that's really all there is to it. So the last step I do is I just take a little bit of this UV resin. You got to be real careful on what glues you use. You can't use super glue. You can't use a lot of glues, but I just put a dab right there on that thread base I have. That kind of acts as a little bit of a hot spot. Some worms have that little hot spot. But check this out. This Semperfli Waxed thread. And that's why you got to be a little bit careful of what your underbody is. This stuff looks really cool. So the fish like it. Like I said, this is unweighted. I'm going to fish it on some still water. If you're going to be fishing it on the river, I'd recommend a tungsten bead, and who knows, there may be another video on how to do that. But tie them up in your favorite colors. This material comes in a bunch of different colors. Thread comes in a bunch of different colors. Fish them, pierce some lips, and I hope they work for you.